I understand sports really well. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant.
I played baseball, but it was sort of slow.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Jane Cougar, Anna Kasparian with you guys. I'm in a bit of a rage, so let's see how it turns out on today's show. It's not even over one of the stories in the rundown. The stories in the rundown are enraging enough. Iran, Turkey, are they going to reoccupy the Middle East? Are they going to get into a giant war with Israel? Whose side are we going to be on? Of course not our actual NATO allies. Don't be ridiculous. Israel above all, I'm told every single day, but then said, no, it's not real. Anyways, Israel and their henchmen, the Gestapo named mainstream media in this country just, did a great job of a character assassination on Graham Plattner. So, no comment on the substance of the story. Here's what I have a comment on. Are they ever going to investigate any insiders like Susan Collins and Chuck Schumer and every other politician that works for Israel? Of course not. Everyone who works for Israel gets a free pass, 100% free pass. Nothing will ever be investigated. You oppose Israel during a campaign, all of a sudden the press, what did you do in 1987 and at 1:30 p.m., huh? That's it, you investigate every girlfriend, every job, every tattoo, right? Bunch of BS. So the mainstream media doesn't even work for this country. It works for a different country, just like our government does. We are so thoroughly occupied. And every single time people think it's a coincidence. Oh, the anti-Israel candidate, such as they are, only a couple of them exist, will get everything investigated. Every single nook and cranny. You're for Israel, shush, no investigations. Okay, I got it, man, but I can't bear it anymore. I can't bear it. This nonstop propaganda for Israel, a different country, a tiny, irrelevant country. No, you all have to care. I don't care. I don't care about Israel, okay? So no, I'm not constitutionally required to care about Papua New Guinea. But here we are. So the rest of this rundown will be about how Israel is gonna drag us into every goddamn war, and we're gonna fight against it, and everyone in media is gonna call us names, and they're all gonna say you owe Israel. So let's do the show. All right, so let's start with how the first story, which is about, we might have gotten Iran's public opinion wrong. Oh, really? I wonder if it's because Israeli propaganda machine is pretending to be our news media. Okay, let's get into it. So what you're looking at there is maybe the largest memorial service in the history of humanity. That is for the Grand Ayatollah in Iran. There are reports that 12 million people showed up, and Trump expressed shock. He didn't know that if he bombed their country, that they might rally around the flag. So more on the developments of this story, both the substance of what's happening in Iran, but also the moron that is Donald Trump and our media, who apparently thought, oh no, if we murder all of their leaders, including the equivalent of their Pope, I bet the Iranian people will love us. It turns out they didn't. Anna.
Yes, so the funeral, I should note, also honored the Ayatollah's daughter, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, and 14-year-old granddaughter, who was also slaughtered by US-Israeli strikes in the opening salvo of the war against Iran beginning February 28th. Now, it certainly did have a rallying around the flag effect, and you saw it on the streets of Iran over the weekend. And by the way, the ceremonies are continuing into today, and you will see large crowds in Iran today as well. But there was one person missing, and that was the new Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, who did not attend. Now, there is speculation about his injuries sustained in some of these US-Israeli strikes in the beginning of the war. There are also some concerns for his safety if he had shown up to the funeral. So as a result of fears that Israel might strike, he didn't attend. Now,
I'm going to jump in real quick on that. So we had to wave the Israelis off because they were considering murdering a whole bunch of people at the funeral.
According to the New York Times reporting, which is very complimentary toward the Israelis. They usually run cover for the Israelis, so there's no reason to believe that they're lying in their reporting on that.
So the Israelis are like, oh great, a bunch of Iranians are getting together. Can we murder them? And we were like, whoa, take it easy. We're trying to get to peace. If you murder the negotiators, you murder their top leaders, those 12 million will turn into 24 million and 94 million and everyone in the country, let alone the rest of the world. So cool it for a second. But Israel's like, oh, damn it. We wanted more murder, but we didn't get it today because America checked us a tiny bit. Oh, sorry, Israel. Don't worry, you'll get to murder all across the world anyway, Lebanon, Gaza, West Bank, which you're doing.
They've been doing that. And in fact, Israel has become such a pariah state that Netanyahu was seen on US cable news over the weekend defending Israel's honor. And we'll get to that a little later in the show. But let's get back to the funeral and what we know about the crowd. And more importantly, this is the most important angle to this story for the purposes of the United States and the American people. Just how easily played Trump was through Mossad BS, okay? So keep that in mind. Now let's get to some more details. As reported by the Financial Times, they reported that officials have prepared for what they say could be between 12 million and 15 million visitors across 6 days, which would make it one of the largest funerals in modern history. The funeral procession will head to the Shia center of Qom, and on to Iraq, where it will pass through the holy sites of Najaf and Karbala. Now, nearly 2 million trips were made on the Tehran metro in less than 2 hours as the funeral procession for the leader began Monday morning, Fars News Agency reported. So, there are ways of trying to determine just how many people took to the streets in order to honor the Ayatollah and his slain family members. And clearly the numbers are not made up. They're very, very high. And it wasn't difficult to see individuals chanting things like destroy Israel, death to America. Now, you can argue, oh, well, they're such a threat because they're chanting. Well, what would you do if a foreign country came in and killed our political leadership? That would have a rally around the flag effect as well. And this is a big departure from what the Western world has been trained to believe about all Iranians being viciously against the Iranian regime. There is a pretty strong base of support for the Iranian regime. The percentage has been stated at either 20 to 30%. It could be a little bit higher. There are those who are against the regime, but many of those people actually showed up to the funeral procession out of curiosity, as was reported by a number of sources, including the New York Times and the FT. Now, the crowd carried red religious flags, which are symbols of revenge for blood. Mourners in Imam Hussein Square symbolically hung an effigy of US President Donald Trump. And I want to show you a little more of what the scene looked like. What you're looking at right now, it shows Iranians throwing stones and destroying a billboard featuring Donald Trump as the Great Satan in Tehran. And people also carried a long red banner over their heads on which, according to the FT, was written, "We will kill Trump" in Persian and English. Some chanted death to America and down with Israel. Now, they're obviously furious with the United States. Let me give you a quote from one 40-year-old resident of Iran who also took to the streets and said this in an interview with Reuters. "Everyone here has come to avenge the blood of their supreme leader. As our leader has said, we have a blood feud with the United States. Our relations with the United States will never be good." Now, Our relationship with Iran didn't have to be so adversarial, but unfortunately it is, because we continue to be allies with Israel, which seeks to be the dominant country in that region of the world. And they want the US to fight its wars for them in order to make that goal happen. I wish we weren't enemies with Iran. There's really no need for us to be enemies with Iran, but here we are. Axios, though, quoted Donald Trump as saying that Washington could take all of Iran's leaders out with just one shot. Let me give you his exact quote. "We are not going to do that because we would have nobody to negotiate with." Trump also told Axios that he was surprised to see some Iranians crying at the funeral, saying he thought people hated Khamenei. Maybe it's fake tears, he said.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So maybe you should stop listening to Mossad. Maybe the Israelis and their special intel that somehow American intelligence agencies don't have the capacity to collect for themselves is, inaccurate. Maybe the Israelis convinced you to fight a war for them, thus killing 13 of our soldiers, while IDF soldiers are busy trying to annex land in places like Lebanon.
Yeah.
Moron, but unfortunately, this is the leader we have here.
So first off, almost everything you see in mainstream media is a lie. So that you have to add on top of Mossad directly talking to Trump and saying, "Oh, it'll be easy. Oh, the Iranians hate the Ayatollah. They hate their own religion. They can't wait to be bombed." All these, I mean, you'd have to be maniacally stupid like Donald Trump to believe any of that. And I'm not sure that he does. I know that he believes in the bribes that the Adelson family gave him through the campaign contributions that were over $300 million, endless other ways that the Israelis bribe our officials and blackmail them and threaten them, etc. We know all that. And then on top of that, you have American media going, "Oh yeah, 40,000 killed in Iran." Wait. When we had verifiable proof in Gaza of literally every name who was killed, you guys, "Well, Hamas, no, we can't trust it. The Israelis tell us it's not trustworthy." Then the Israelis make up a number, like it started with I think 15,000, then it was 30,000, then it was 40,000. I think Shapiro the other day had it at 50,000.
Are you serious?
42 for sure. So it just keeps going up and up and up. And the New York Times and all the media is like, "Oh yeah, I trust it immediately. I don't need any sourcing. I don't need any evidence. If the Israelis say that Iran killed 40,000 people, then I believe it immediately, and I will write it as fact in every story without a shred of evidence."
Let me go to Graphic 9 real quick, because it's about this. Graphic 9, it's one sentence. Official figures reported that more than 3,000 people were killed. By the way, which is a lot of people. You don't have to embellish, you don't have to exaggerate, you don't have to engage in hyperbole. 3,000 people is a lot of people. But to take that and say it was 42,000 or 50,000, it's just, they're such liars, and they have the audacity to claim that you can't trust numbers coming out of Gaza.
So guys, you have to understand, we live in a pool of Israeli propaganda. Almost everything we see is Israeli propaganda. So 3,000 is bad enough, just like Anna said. And the Iranian regime does oppress their own citizens in many other ways, right? So we don't need Israeli propaganda to know that I'm not in favor of fundamentalism of any religion. Muslim fundamentalism, or by the way, the disgusting, sick Jewish fundamentalism in the West Bank and among the settlers and all those terrorists who are constantly murdering Americans as well as Palestinians, Muslims and Christians. And our media goes, "Oh, no big deal, no big deal. The settlers are saints, the Israelis are saints, etc." All but boo, Iran. I don't need any evidence. They murdered all these people. No, look, and then when you see, but you say, you might think in your head, but Cenk, I've seen a bunch of people from Iran on TV and on air, and they all were for the war. Why do you think that's the case, brother? There's so many people, Iranians, who are against the war, but they never get on air because they never get invited on air.
Exactly.
The only people who are invited on air are Israelis posing as Persians. They're not even Persians. Their family hasn't been there for decade after decade. They don't have any family left there. So they're like, "Yeah, bomb the Iranians, who cares? Yay, Israel." And they pretend to be Persians and they put them all over television. The reality is what you just saw in the video that we started this segment with. Millions upon millions upon millions of people did not enjoy being bombed. This is super obvious. If it wasn't for overwhelming Israeli propaganda, "Oh yeah, they love being bombed. They want to be murdered. They want their children to be killed in the elementary school. Yeah, let's go, let's kill them all, right? right? Oh, we'll learn from Iraq. No, our media isn't about learning. It's about serving as Israeli marketing tools. So the reality is every country that gets bombed rallies around the flag, okay? And who did we kill? We killed the top religious leader of the Shiites, a major sect of one of the 2 largest religions in the world, with hundreds of millions of people that are his followers. That's the equivalent of killing their pope. So, and then our media has a bunch of meatheads, also paid by Israel, out as posing as pundits, going, so what, man? They had a chant. We're in America, we get to kill anyone we want on behalf of Israel, okay? Yeah, look, who cares? Yeah, you can say who cares, but they care. The people of Iran care, and you just saw it with your own eyes. Would they care about their own religious leader being murdered? Of course they would care. Of course that would make them rally around the flag. But since Israel wants war, all you hear is propaganda for war and never the reality. So again, you see it with your own eyes. Now the job of the rest of the American media is to say, do not believe your lying eyes. The Iranian people don't like the Grand Ayatollah. They love being bombed. They want this war. All of it is a freaking lie. And the only person so incredibly ignorant enough to believe that is Donald Trump. He's so ignorant, he's ignorant about his ignorance. So he's like, they didn't like their religious leader being killed. No, the Israelis didn't tell me that, and I believed it. Well, that's because you're the dumbest man in the country, and since you were helpful to the Adelsons, you're now our president.
So Cenk is absolutely right about our legacy media, especially corporate media, being far more deferential to the Israeli perspective than reality, for instance. And over the weekend, Fox News made sure to provide their platform to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to comment on a whole host of issues, including the funeral of the Ayatollah. And Netanyahu's cope is pretty hilarious in the next exchange that you're about to watch. So let's take a quick look at that and then we'll discuss.
What is your takeaway from the turnout and the fact that it was attended by Saudi Arabia, Oman, as well as Qatar? They sent delegations.
Look, Iran is a nation of about 90 million. About 80% of them hate this regime and would like to see it gone. But you still have, quite a few million, a minority that they can bring to the streets. And what do they shout in the streets? I don't know if you heard this, Brian. They were shouting, death to Trump, death to me, of course, but death to Trump. We have to kill Trump, death to America. This is what is the face of this minority that has taken over, hijacked this talented people, the Iranian people, the people who fight for freedom, have been massacred on the streets for freedom. So I think that if the Iranian people were given a chance, they'd throw these bums out.
Yeah, I'm sure Israelis would be chanting friendly things if a foreign country came in and bombed an elementary school, killing 168 children, and then also tried to wipe out the leadership in your government, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how the Israelis would react to that? They would probably drop a nuke. And I'm not exaggerating.
Of course. So they're like, can you believe they chanted death to our leaders? Bro, you didn't chant it. You actually did it. You murdered their top 49 leaders. But in American media, we've been trained to believe us murdering them is no big deal. They're just Muslims. Their lives are totally expendable. And if there were some Christians and Americans there, who cares? They're not Israelis. All of your lives are expendable. So, and then you see this giant liar, and Fox News brings him on a lie because Rupert Murdoch is like a satanic Zionist. And so he's like, oh yeah, the 12 million, the largest ever for a memorial service. I wish it wasn't, but memorial service for a human being in the history of the earth is a minority of Iranians. Don't believe your lying eyes and ears. Remember, only Israel is telling you the truth. Back to killing them. Can you believe they chanted death to us? Well, what the hell would they chant after you murdered their top 49 leaders? So everything on TV is propaganda. And as you see here, they're like, no, don't believe it. Back into the war, back into murder, back into death. By the way, one of the reasons we were able to restrain, the very rare case we were able to restrain the Israelis from bombing the funeral procession, is because so many world leaders showed up.
Yes.
Including, by the way, you were saying the Armenian leader.
Yeah, Armenia is a Christian nation, right? They wanted to pay their respects.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell a quick anecdote here. the local pizza shop run by an Armenian from Lebanon. Okay, a couple of guys from there. Last night I'm talking to them. He's like, man, Armenian militia showed up to fight with the Muslims. And he's like, I couldn't believe it in Lebanon. And he's like, attaboy. Okay,
yeah,
so, well, Israel, ironically, is uniting the world.
Israel is 100% uniting the world. Israel is a threat to world peace. In fact, we don't have world peace right now, specifically due to Israel's goals of dominating the Middle East. That's what they want. That's why they're starting all these wars. And later in the show, we're going to talk about the US press tour that Netanyahu engaged in over the weekend in order to manufacture consent for the future war that we're going to be fighting on Israel's behalf against Turkey. Turkey, as Trump would say. So it's never enough for them. They want war, they want slaughter, they want Americans to bankroll it, they want American soldiers to fight those wars on their behalf, and we're done. We are done.
Yeah, last thing. Again, American media is like, them chanting something is worse than us actually doing it or Israel actually doing it. And American media makes you believe that, right? They chanted death to USA. That's an outrage. But you literally killed them, including 170 schoolgirls. Yeah, that's less of a concern. Okay, the death itself, the murder itself is less of a concern. But the chanting of it, that's a real problem, right? By the way, the same exact trick they pulled here in America. Oh, Israel's committing a genocide, no big deal. But somebody on a college campus chanted that the Palestinians should be free. Oh, that's a huge deal, big deal. You see the misdirection? Constant misdirection. Don't worry what Israel's actually doing and all the deaths and slaughter. Only worry about what people are saying about Israel. That's the real offense. Oh, they're offended, they're offended. Good, I'm super glad they're offended. Last thing is, well, as Anna said earlier, why do you think they are chanting those things? Because of our alliance with Israel. Because we keep bombing them on behalf of a different country. If we didn't have an alliance with Israel that forced us into nonstop wars with Iraq, Afghanistan, Afghanistan's a little bit different, Iran, Libya, etc., the Muslim world has no reason to hate America, none. We could be incredible allies. But instead, we are forced by our masters to attack all those Muslim countries, to make them super angry at us after we murder all of their leaders and bomb their nations. And by the way, in Iraq, kill hundreds of thousands of people. Then when they get angry back at us, Israel's like, yes. See, hate the Muslims. By the way, I'm so worried about bigotry. Oh, anti-Semitism is my #1 concern, but I love it when you're anti-Semitic towards Muslim Arabs. You love it, right? Israel spreads that poison of bigotry all across the world. Hate the Muslims, kill the Muslims. Oh, can you believe they objected to you killing them? Hate them more, kill them more. Oh, look at that. Israel wound up with more territory. But everybody in American media, shh. Hope that nobody looks at a map and sees Israel's territory continuing to grow despite all of your goddamn lies about how they're victims. Hope that nobody ever sees a video coming out of Gaza or Lebanon or Iran, because if they do, they'll know that everyone in our media is a bunch of liars who work for Israel. So that's their big hope, but their hope is being dashed right now because the walls are breached. Left, right, and middle are going, I have eyes. I saw that funeral. I know which side the Iranian people are on. You guys are a bunch of liars. I saw the videos in Gaza. You murdered all those kids. And you want me to say that that's not terrorism? No, that is terrorism. And it makes me sick that they make us pay for Israeli terrorism day in, day out.
We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, an incredibly important interview with the father of an American citizen who was killed by Israeli settlers in the West Bank last year. What has the United States government done about it? Well, you're about to find out. We'll be right back.
We've been on our phones too much. I feel like we just need to touch grass or something.
I told you. I mean, you know what? Let's actually do it. Let's touch the grass. Whoa. Andrew Yang? It's not racist, right? It's him.
Yes, it is I, Andrew Yang, out here giving money away as usual.
Wait, but literally?
Do you use a phone? Noble Mobile will cut your wireless bill in half every month, and you get paid even more if you log off, look up, and touch grass.
Oh, I actually have some grass if you...
I don't think that's the kind of grass.
Not that kind of grass, unfortunately.
Whoa, wait, what the...
Whoa.
I guess that kind of grass works too. All grass works.
All grass and we get cash?
Wait, did you see that, babe?
Noble mobile, make it rain, girl, make it rain, make it. That didn't rain so good, but now it's raining good.
Corruption, injustice, the system is rigged against you. Every day we're blasted by a flurry of terrible news from every angle, which can make it challenging to stay positive and know how to fight back. The Damage Report is your solution. I'm Johnny DeRola, and my daily morning show cuts through the noise and exposes the real damage being done to our country, the world, and how we can fight back against it. Corporate greed crushing workers? We'll name names. Politicians selling you out for their corporate overlords? We've got the receipts. Climate disaster, economic collapse, the rise of fascism. No spin, no establishment talking points, just the truth that you need to survive and resist. But it's not all doom and gloom. We'd love to have you join the Dragon Squad, our community of positive-minded activists who turn the day's news into positive action. With new episodes every weekday, listen to The Damage Report to get honest news, unflinching commentary, and daring coverage you won't find anywhere else. Listen to The Damage Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, because understanding the damage is the first step to fixing it.
Jane Canana with you guys. And Box, thanks for gifting 5 memberships. We appreciate it. We have a very important and serious story about an American coming up right now. So let me tell you about it. Israeli settlers killed 20-year-old Palestinian American citizen Saifullah Musalet in the West Bank in 2025. We're about to talk to his dad, but first, Anna's going to give you the facts of the case.
Yes, Saifullah, who went by Saif, grew up and actually went to elementary school in Port Charlotte, Florida, before moving to the West Bank for middle school and high school, but later after graduation came back to the United States in order to help with his family's ice cream business in Tampa, Florida. But he decided to visit the West Bank just before his 21st birthday in June of last year. And unfortunately, as we have seen happen far too often, he was violently confronted by extremist Israeli settlers on his own family's land. Now, local news in Port Charlotte reports that Saif was brutally beaten by a group group of Israelis, and they refused to even allow an ambulance to get to him in order to save his life after he was beaten brutally by Israeli settlers using clubs. His cousin says that he asked for water in his last breath and was denied. And despite investigations allegedly being launched, no charges have been filed in Saif's killing. On July 12th of last year, 6 arrests were made in connection with the killing, which included 2 settlers and an IDF reservist. Again, no charges. According to the IDF, the reservist, who Israeli police stated had fired into the air during these clashes, was released after questioning. And a group of Israeli settlers later followed a CNN vehicle, a news van, evaded the Israeli border police and smashed the news van's rear window with a club. You could literally see CNN's reporting about this if you don't believe us. Now, US Representative Kathy Castor, who represents Tampa, Florida, along with 25 other members of Congress, sent Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, a letter last July demanding action be taken. They want accountability. But so far, it's unclear whether the United States government has done a damn thing about this. In fact, as many as 10 American citizens have been killed in the West Bank by Israeli extremists since October of 2023. The Trump administration hasn't done a damn thing about it. When Biden was in charge, his administration didn't do a damn thing about it. In fact, 2 more Americans were later killed by an Israeli settler after Saif was beaten to death. While Saif was the 5th American to be killed by Israeli extremists, a total of 10 Americans have been killed since October 7th. Now, here to discuss this tragic story with us is Saif's father, Kamel Musalet. Thank you so much for joining us, Kamel.
Thank you for having me.
So please tell our audience, anything that I might have missed in very briefly summarizing what happened to your son. What happened on the day that he was killed?
Saifullah and a group of his friends and basically a lot of people from the village. There's this area in our village. Our village is called the Mazra al-Sharqiyya in the West Bank. And then there's an area that settlers have been going since last April. And they've been putting some outposts out there, and they've been just trying to camp out there and basically not allowing us to get to our lands. And for months, and now over a year and a half, anytime anybody gets close to them, they would attack them either with, M16s, rocks, and so forth. There was, so far, 3 have been killed in that area. And a person named Wa'ad from Sinjil, close to that area before Saifullah, and Muhammad Shalabi, his friend. So this area belongs to the people of our village. Our village is basically 80% US American citizens, and this land is in Area A. So this is not Area B, this is not Area C. So it's illegal for Israeli settlers or any Israeli to be in that area. So when they were there, they went to go to their lands, and basically the whole village was out there, older, younger, and basically to show, just to be together and show that this is our land, and we need to get to our lands, especially for during olive season and so forth. That day they were ambushed. They didn't know that there was that many Israeli, settlers all around them. And they were ambushed from the top of the mountain, from the bottom of the mountain. And many people were hurt that day. Saifullah was, brutally killed that day. He was beaten. He was tortured, and basically he couldn't breathe no more. His friend was killed, and they later found him after hours. They didn't even know he was killed until they took my son to the hospital. And when he got back from the hospital, they heard that he was missing, and he was killed also. His name was Muhammad Shalabi. And for 3 hours while my son was there, he was still breathing, and his friends witnessed they were there. And they told me what happened, and that he was breathing, but he was unconscious, and he couldn't, he didn't know what was going on. And if he was able to get that medical attention within those 3 hours, he would have been still alive. They finally got to a stretcher out to him after 3 hours, after getting like a permit for an ambulance to get there, when in reality, the Israeli soldiers should have been there first with their ambulance to take him. This is an American citizen. Even if it wasn't an American citizen, any Palestinian that's been, tortured or shot by Israeli settlers that shouldn't have been there in the first place. After 3 hours, my youngest son finally got to him, because everybody was afraid to get too close to them, too close to safe, because there were settlers in there. There was Israeli soldiers in the bottom. They were preventing any medical assistance. They were preventing anybody to get to him. And when my son, my younger son, 2 years younger than Saif, when he heard about his brother, he just didn't care who was there. He went to go, basically try to save his brother's life. He told me, basically 5 minutes before he got into the ambulance is when he took his last breath. So you're talking about minutes before that, because they prevented it.
Yeah. So, Kamel, first of all, my heart goes out to you in a way I cannot describe. I mean, if they did anything like that to a family member, a son, I can't countenance it. I can't understand the courage of the Palestinians to be surrounded by a bunch of lunatic terrorists that are constantly trying to murder you guys, constantly, and then murdering your kids. And And how the Palestinians survive and persevere, I can't understand. And the whole world owes you a debt of gratitude because we didn't come to rescue the Palestinians, and it breaks my heart in a way that it's indescribable. But particularly as Americans, we need to have our government represent us. And so I want to ask you about, what they've done, because right now no one is under. If I understand this right, you tell me, is anyone under arrest about to go to trial for the murder of your son? And is the American government absolutely demanding and using its leverage to demand that there be justice? Or are they saying, oh, they killed an American, that's okay, Americans are inferior to the Israelis, so we won't even pressure them to arrest anyone and put them on trial?
At this point, nobody has been arrested, nobody has been accountable. The US basically said the Israelis will investigate it. I've been advocating for that extra, for that investigation from the US government. The way I see it is, what if it was an American, basically in any other country in the world, and he was attacked, a US American citizen, it was attacked by a mob of wherever he's at. Don't you think that they would send investigators? Don't you think they would send FBI, CIA, or anything just to get answers, to demand answers from that country? But for some reason, with my son, they said, let Israel investigate. And so far, we've got nothing from the Israeli investigators. We have no answers whatsoever. What's even worse is that the settlers are still on that land. The settlers have still prevented us from getting to our land. I haven't been to the place where my son was killed.
I just to Cenk's point about the courage of the Palestinian people, I'm always in awe of that, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm in awe of how calm you are. And I know that it's kind of forced upon you, because if you raise your voice, if you get too animated, it plays into a narrative that the Israelis have built about the Palestinian people, a narrative that they themselves should be painted with. Okay, violent, disgusting terrorist criminals that our government is more interested in representing than our own people, including your son, who was an American citizen. But to your point, it isn't just about protecting American citizens. It's about pursuing justice and ensuring that we are not aligned with a terror state, a terrorist state like Israel. But unfortunately, we are aligned with that country. In fact, that country occupies our government as we speak. I am furious about this. In fact, I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of Israeli extremists, Jewish supremacists who get into the faces of Palestinians on their own land, drive them out of their own homes, and suffer no consequences for it. And the Palestinians can't even fight back, because if they do, well, what does the IDF do? Does the IDF intervene in order to protect the Palestinians from these extremists? Of course not. So, you mentioned the IDF ambulance that should have shown up to save your son. But do you have any hope that the IDF has any interest at all in protecting the Palestinian people in the West Bank on their own land? I mean, has there been any indication that the IDF has done anything to protect the Palestinians from these disgusting terrorists?
Not really, because that's my whole thing right now. Why are they not evicting, so-called, what do you mean evict? Why are they not kicking out these Israeli settlers from our land at this point? Remember, this is Area A. There's no dispute whatsoever, according to Oslo and according to international law, and according to Israeli law. Why are they still there? Why can I not get to my land? If they were really serious about it, they would prevent them from getting to our land at this point. Like I told you, Anna, before, I still have not been there. My whole thing, I was hoping that some sort of good would happen, with my son's death, with his friend's death, that maybe there'll be some sort of international pressure. There'll be some sort of US pressure saying, get these Israeli settlers off those lands. Enough is enough. But no, after my son was killed, another American was killed. Another American was killed. And I'm just talking about Americans, not just, other than all the other
over 1,000
Palestinians that were killed.
Over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank since October 7th, 2023. The West Bank had nothing to do with Hamas, had nothing to do with October 7th. October 7th was used as an excuse by the Israeli government to carry out the slaughter and brutalization of people in multiple countries, by the way, including Palestinian territories. Jake, I want to toss it over to you if you have another question.
Yeah, I do. So look, if I was the president and we had any honest American president, I'd say, no, you're gonna arrest someone and do a real investigation here, and I'm gonna send my people to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna lose all of your funding from America. No, Americans are not inferior to Israelis. No, Americans do need justice. I mean, these are the same people who are pretending to represent Western civilization, but they're against equality, they're against justice, they're against property rights, that's for sure. They don't believe in property rights at all. They believe you should be able to steal any land as long as you're from a certain religion. So that's, to me, what should be done if we had an honest president ever. And I don't mean just Trump, I mean ever, Democrat or Republican is obvious, right? But we don't have that. So under the circumstances, what is it that you're hoping that American government officials will do specifically? And what have they done? Have they done any of it or none of it?
I was hoping that basically that they can have some sort of pressure, that they can do something about the Israeli violence, the Israeli settler terrorism, basically, not just violence, somehow ended. But what does sanctions do? They need to, they need to have real accountability. They need to prosecute these Israeli settlers to the fullest. They need this is what, as an American, my son was killed there. What have you done for me? What have you done? Basically, not only that, I have a security ban on me now that's because my son was killed, so that I can't even enter Jerusalem anymore after my son was killed. Collective punishment for something that makes no sense.
Yeah, they're savages. They're savages. Yeah. That's what the Israelis are. They're savages. Yeah.
My whole thing is that I just don't want, because it's the hardest thing in the world. I don't want another father to go through what I went through. And I was worried about that, and it happened again after that. That's my whole thing.
So I'm just going to summarize real quick on that. So far, 10 Americans killed in the last 3 years by the Israelis, 0 arrests, 0 demand for accountability from our government, which then ends $0 taken away from Israel, 0 consequences for Israel. So what that says to the Israelis is, murder any American you like. We're not gonna bother you about it. You are superior to us, and if you kill an inferior American citizen, there'll be absolutely no consequences from the American government. So, and the only consequence that has happened so far is his father, who we're talking to here, has been banned from Jerusalem. So that's the consequence.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insanity.
And Kamel, before we let you go, is there anything that we or our audience can do to help support you? Is there anything we can do to help apply pressure? I mean, obviously our government doesn't represent us. I don't know if it'll work, but is there anything we can do?
Yeah, just keep speaking for Saif and for everyone else that's been killed, and given that awareness, and keep calling the representatives. There are some that really care. There are some that are really genuine, and they are trying, but they don't have the power, to do that much. But honestly, I've been to DC, I've been to the Senate building, and I've spoken to many sincere, loving people that really care and really want to do something, but it's just nothing is happening. So I just say, keep calling the representatives and keep talking about what's going on, and just letting people know, and keep up the truth. Let everybody know you guys doing a great job, and I really thank you for giving the story about my son when it first happened, and you guys were one of the first, and I really appreciate that, and that's all I can ask for right now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. We appreciate it. our hearts go out to you, our audience hearts go out to you. And the good news is this is no longer a partisan issue in this country. No. Are we going to represent Americans or are we going to represent a foreign country? That's the bottom line. And so right now, our government is screaming back at us. No, under no circumstances will we represent Americans. We will let this tiny country boss us around, take all of our money, start these wars that we're forced to fight. We'll let them murder American citizens like this poor gentleman's son. And we won't even ask for them to be arrested or for any justice to come. Because obviously they're the boss of us and not the other way around. And that has become untenable and unbearable in America. Democrats hate it, Republicans hate it, and independents hate it the most. So one day we're gonna come for our own politicians, not in the disgusting terrorist ways that Israel does, but in the political way. And you're seeing it in New York, you're seeing it in Colorado, and I hope you begin to see it all across the country in both Democratic and Republican primaries. Throw out all the bums. 94% of Congress works for Israel. All of our presidents work for Israel. They've all been bribed by the Israeli lobby to betray you. They kill your son or daughter, they're not gonna ask for justice because they don't work for us. They work for Israel. So that is a stone cold fact right now in America. It just happened 10 times in the last 3 years. And not a single person was brought to justice because our government and our media think it is normal for the Israelis to be superior to us and to murder us and get away with it. And never, ever have any justice for American citizens. They think that's normal. I'm pleading with Americans across the entire political spectrum. Send them a message. That's not normal. That is very wrong. And we will not stand for it because we're proud Americans. Yes, and we're allowed to be proud. And they're humiliating us by going, ha ha, we can murder your kids and get away with it. And there's nothing you could do because we own your government and we own your media. Well, they don't own all the media anymore. And now a lot of the people in the government have begun to lose. You should throw them all out. You should fire them because they're traitors who work for a different country. Young Turks, we'll be right back. All right, let's go to Super Chat. Rosa Roscoe says, happy birthday, Anna Kasparian, our brave queen. That is coming up. So early happy birthday, Anna, under difficult circumstances.
Thank you.
Titan of Olympus says, how's it going, Anna and Cenk? I recently ran across a news story that Israeli police stopping a Palestinian vehicle and tossing a grenade into it while holding the door shut, preventing the driver from escaping. I really hate we support this. Of course.
There were kids in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any decent moral person would hate that we're being forced to take money that we earned and give it to a bunch of terrorists to murder innocent civilians. But there are no decent people and almost no decent people in DC, and there are almost no decent people who work in national media. They all think that that's perfectly normal. And they're like, don't report it, don't report it. Our beloved Israelis are allowed to be terrorists and murder your kids and throw hand grenades into cars of an entire family. They're allowed to murder Americans. All of our press says that's normal, that's super normal. Gee, I wonder who they work for. You can, the trope. I don't give a goddamn what you think's a trope. The tropes are part of the propaganda, okay? You're not allowed to criticize that beloved country in a 2,000 different ways that we invented through our propaganda, so that every criticism is considered disqualifying. Gee, I wonder who came up with that. Israel did, and all of our media works for them. Box, Congress is back in session on the 13th. You all have to call your Congress people, make sure they vote against the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2027. Section 219 cannot be allowed. Ro Khanna is working against it. He flipped Adam Smith, but of course, right, back on TYT. Cenk, Anna, Overthinker Final Boss, which is a great handle. Happy Warrior 1219. Thank you for joining. We appreciate it. You're now part of the Young Turks, and you make us stronger. And if you like this message, help us propel it. Because God knows the entire power structure in this country is trying to prevent our message from getting out, a message of truth. Titan of Olympus and Women AF, thank you for gifting 5 memberships apiece. And then all of these beautiful people on through tyt.com/join. And guys, that makes a huge difference. If you donate or join through tyt.com/join, it helps us a lot. Plus, you get the member chat, which is reading your comments during the ad breaks. So T. Flynn, Curl, Venture Salon, Casamel, Sholji OT, Zalasal, John Paul 62, and a whole bunch of anonymous folks. Thank you for joining. We love you guys. So do a quick sponsor read for you guys, because we think that all of our sponsors wind up helping you guys. We're pretty careful about it. So I want to let you guys know about this opportunity. So we're talking about Chili Pad 2.0 today. So everybody's having trouble sleeping, especially with all the news these days and how tragic it can be. So all that stress raises your core body temperature. A body that's too warm can't get into deep sleep. That's why I'm recommending Chili Pad 2.0, the water-based mattress topper that actively controls your bed temperature from 55 to 115 degrees all night long. No new mattresses, no renovations. It actively cools just using water, so it doesn't move the air around like a fan, but it actually changes the temperature. And dual zones means you and your partner each set your own temperature. These are all really important. No subscription needed. You get a 2-year warranty, and they're designed and assembled in the USA. So visit www.sleep.me/TYT to get up to $255 off your Chili Pad 2.0 with code TYT. That's www.sleep.me/TYT. Free shipping, free returns, and a 30-night trial so you can test it out, dream big, and wake up better. All right, I hope we helped. Now let's get back to the news. Netanyahu's government has declared that it will ignore a ruling by Israel's constitutional high court. Of course, they ignore everything, which many in the country argue barrels towards a constitutional crisis, and one could only hope. Anna, tell us more.
Yes, now I should remind you all that, just 7 short years ago, Benjamin Netanyahu had the following thing to say about high court rulings in the country of Israel, arguing that court decisions are binding on everyone. Fast forward to 2026, I guess he doesn't feel the same way because his government just declared that they will in fact ignore a high court ruling having to do with Israel's second authority for television and radio. So I'm gonna give you the details on what this all means. According to the Times of Israel, for the first time in Israel's history, the government openly declared on Saturday, just this past weekend, that it will not respect a high court of justice ruling, escalating its feud with the judiciary to constitutional crisis levels. Now, while it's widely being reported as something that now sparks a constitutional crisis in Israel, I should let you all know that Israel doesn't actually officially have a written constitution. So instead, it operates under a series of basic laws that together serve as its constitutional framework, defining the structure of government and protecting fundamental rights. But nonetheless, semantics aside, let's get to the details of what the ruling was and why the Netanyahu government is deciding to reject it and not follow it at all. So for context, Israel's second authority for television and radio is a governing agency similar to their version of the FCC. It oversees Channel 13, which is one of Israel's largest media outlets. However, a group of tech entrepreneurs led by a vocal critic of the Israeli government has moved to purchase the channel, Channel 13. Netanyahu and his extremist government can't have that because they like to use these outlets for their own propaganda purposes. Now, in response, a rash of controversial appointments were made to the second authority, including the former chair of the Cable and Satellite Council who had served on the advisory board of Channel 13, and a witness for the prosecution in Netanyahu's corruption case who ended up reversing their testimony in Netanyahu's favor. So several organizations like the Movement for Quality Government and the Union of Journalists in Israel petitioned the higher court, which in May had ruled that the second authority cease activities until a final decision could be reached. Now, according to the Times of Israel, following the May ruling and the apparently dim view the high court had taken of the new appointments, 6 members of the Second Authority Council ended up resigning. They resigned one after the other, taking the number of members down to 9 out of 15, meaning the council could not function due to the quorum requirement. Then in June, the high court in Israel ruled that the Second Authority could continue its operations despite the fact that they didn't have a full quorum. The court itself, in an interim order in June, all but accused Communications Minister Shlomo Kari of unlawfully exerting influence over the council in order to thwart its operations and by extension, the approval of Channel 13's acquisition. But a proposal to renounce the decision was approved by the Israeli government, and that was detailed in a joint statement made by Kari and Justice Minister Yariv Levin. Today, the government unanimously approved a proposal declaring it will not recognize any decision, approval, appointment, or action taken by the Council of the Second Authority, as long as the Council does not meet the explicit minimum requirements established by law. And then later in a sprawling statement that was posted on X, Israel's communications minister Shlomo Kari said the following: high court judges are not the Knesset, and a fit of power does not grant authority to erase an explicit threshold condition from the law, even if it is inconvenient for them. And that decision was met with pretty intense pushback by members of the Israeli populace, and even by Isaac Herzog, who is the president of Israel. Here's what he posted on X: statements of non-compliance with Supreme Court rulings harm the core of unity in the people. I have already clarified this, and I will repeat it again and again. Non-compliance with a court ruling is a red line that must not be crossed under any circumstances. Now, of course, Herzog doesn't have any unilateral power to do anything about the fact that he is part of an extremist right-wing government that is now barreling toward a crisis, a constitutional crisis in Israel. But I'm not surprised at all. Okay, when Israeli officials claim that they're a democracy, that they're like, their version of a shining hill, an apartheid state that doesn't grant equality to Palestinians, they're not able to vote, they're not afforded the same rights as Jewish Israelis. It tells you everything you need to know about whether that country is really a democracy. They don't even have a formal constitution. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, so of course they're not a democracy. They imprisoned 5.5 million Palestinians, and now in Gaza, they've stuffed 2.2 million Palestinians into a concentration camp. And they say, no, you have no rights, no freedom, no nothing. And our government goes, oh, what a great democracy. And our media says, the best democracy in the Middle East. It's democracy plus a brutal dictatorship of an apartheid state. But you leave that part out. Why do they leave that part out? But now the chickens are coming home to roost. Because a lot of people in this country, because of the overwhelming Israeli propaganda, think that Israel is a lovely place with a bunch of kibbutzes, and they're all just like incredible geniuses that are like making the desert bloom, and they all love peace, but they're attacked by a bunch of savage animals, barely doing self-defense, a tiny little thing. So this fantasy is in people's heads. The reality, of course, that Israel has become a fascist state. And when you go towards fascism and you commit a genocide like they did in Gaza, by definition, you have no moral quandaries. You have no boundaries. So a lot of Israelis thought, yeah. I mean, we're killing the Palestinians. We've been occupying them for 6 decades now. We've been brutalizing and humiliating them. But that's okay. The fascists that I am supporting in Israel won't come for me. We're all united as Jewish Israelis. We despise everyone else, but we're okay, right? No. When the fascists get in charge, you're not okay. And they don't care about you. They care about their own power. And they're showing it here. If they cared about beloved Israel as an entity in the Jewish state, etc., they would want it to be fair, and they would want to follow the laws and the regulations to make sure they're at a bare minimum fair to all Israeli Jews, let alone all Israelis. Of course, the Palestinians, being fair to them is out of the question, right? But at least there, but they don't care. Because you know why? When they came for the Palestinians, you didn't do anything. And when they came
you cheered it on. You cheered it on.
And when they came for the Lebanese, you didn't do anything. When they came for the Persians, you didn't do anything. And now when they come for other Israelis and the rule of law and the constitution in Israel,
or the framework
for like the structure, the democracy, the rights of other Israeli Jews, there's no one to protect you. And you're shocked and chagrined by it. I can't believe it. And so that applies to some good people in Israel, some people who were, stood by and let them do all these things that, questionable on whether they're good people or not. But here in America, which I care more about, we have a lot of Americans, whether they're Christian Zionists or Jewish Zionists, who believed in this fairy tale and to this day totally and utterly believe in the fairy tale. So when they see a story like this, they're like, whoa, that is so unusual. Because they think that Israel's this glowing, beautiful democracy filled with rights and is the representative of Western civilization. Also, they've been in the Middle East for 3,000 years. But still, Western civilization and etc. No, brother, once fascism takes over, it doesn't care. And you know who they're gonna rout eventually more than anyone else? Is liberal Jews, moderate Jews that live in Israel. And they're already driving them out. We've interviewed a bunch of them, right? And they're gonna drive them out more and more because fascism has no boundaries. And once you said it was okay to murder 23,000 kids as long as they weren't me, you opened a door you should have never opened. And that's where the ghouls and goblins come in and take away everyone's rights.
That's right, that's how it works. That's how it works, so I guess revel in it. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the US press tour that Netanyahu engaged in over the weekend in order to drum up support for war against Turkey. We'll be right back. I don't care if you're Christian. In fact, I will fight for you to have your religious liberty and practice your Christianity. I believe in that. I don't believe in Christianity, which means that you do not get to dictate the way I live my life based on your religion. I don't care what the Bible says. You have every right in the world. All those women who identify with your religion have every right in the world to not get an abortion, to not take birth control, but they do not have the right to dictate my life and what I decide to do with my body. I don't care about your goddamn religion. I'm so tired of having nonstop conversations about what the Bible says. You live your life in the way that you interpret the Bible. Again, I don't care, but you don't get to take the Bible and tell me, well, the Bible says this in this chapter, in this verse. I don't care. I don't care, I don't believe in it, and I have the right, based on our Constitution, to not believe in it.
No part of Gaza has been left unscathed. Ain't a whole lot left. I don't know why they need any more bombs. Let us be clear. The United States provided $18 billion in military aid to Israel. Netanyahu, indiscriminate bombardment, have killed more than 50,000 civilians, 60% of whom are women, children, paramedics, and journalists. All of this is against basic human decency. You don't starve children with absolutely no humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. It is a war crime. It is illegal for the United States government to provide Israel with more offensive weapons. History will not forgive us.
We've been on our phones too much. I feel like we just need to touch grass or something.
I told you. I mean, you know what? Let's actually do it. Let's touch the grass. Whoa. Andrew Yang? It's not racist, right? It's him.
Yes, it is I, Andrew Yang, out here giving money away as usual.
Wait, but literally?
Do you use a phone Noble Mobile will cut your wireless bill in half every month, and you get paid even more if you log off, look up, and touch grass.
Oh, I actually have some grass if you...
I don't think that's the kind of grass.
Not that kind of grass, unfortunately.
Whoa, wait, what the...
Whoa.
I guess that kind of grass works too. All grass works.
All grass and we get cash?
Wait, did you see that, babe?
Noble Mobile, make it rain, girl, make it rain, make it. That didn't rain so good, but now it's raining good.
Corruption, injustice, the system is rigged against you. Every day we're blasted by a flurry of terrible news from every angle, which can make it challenging to stay positive and know how to fight back. The Damage Report is your solution. I'm Johnny DeRola, and my daily morning show cuts through the noise and exposes the real damage being done to our country, the world, and how we can fight back against it. Corporate greed crushing workers? We'll name names. Politicians selling you out for their corporate overlords? We've got the receipts. Climate disaster, economic collapse, the rise of fascism. No spin, no establishment talking points, just the truth that you need to survive and resist. But it's not all doom and gloom. We'd love to have you join the Dragon Squad, our community of positive-minded activists who turn the day's news into positive action. With new episodes every weekday, listen to The Damage Report to get honest news, unflinching commentary, and daring coverage you won't find anywhere else. Listen to The Damage Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, because understanding the damage is the first step to fixing it.
All right, back on TYT, guys. Cenk Ugarian is on the online news show. A little bit later, we're going to talk about the World Cup and is it fair what Trump did to get the red card removed? As an American, do you want it to be fair? Do you not want it to be fair? Some controversial takes coming up on that in a little bit. But right now, let's go to our next story.
I hear you're coming to visit. What do you expect to accomplish with the president?
Well, we haven't yet set a date for the visit. There is, I think, as Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, said, these are the two fighting allies, and I think it's a remarkable partnership. Right. Do we have some disagreements from time to time? Yep. Yeah, sure, but we work them out.
So that's Netanyahu coming here for what appears to be like the millionth time in a row to slap our president around, to have our politicians kiss his ass. And he's got a new plan. Why don't we attack a NATO ally? Why don't we start an internal war within NATO and destroy Europe and America while I take all of your money and we destroy Iran and Lebanon and Gaza and the West Bank? Well, great, Beelzebub is visiting again. Anna, tell us more.
Well, over the weekend, Netanyahu attempted to drum up support for conflict against Turkey, and he did so through Fox News. He had a little bit of a media tour that was Fox News specific because he went on multiple Fox News programs. Now, before we get into the video clips, which you definitely have to see, let me give you some context so you understand what we're talking about here. So Netanyahu actually had a call with Donald Trump last Friday. And during that call, he complained about anti-Israel comments made by Turkish officials, including Erdogan, the leader of Turkey. Now, Netanyahu urged Trump to not sell Turkey weapons for its air force. Trump and Erdogan are expected to discuss Turkey's wish to rejoin the F-35 program at the NATO summit this week in Ankara. Now, Ankara was removed from the program because of its acquisition of Russian-made S-400 missile defense system, of the missile defense system. Now, with all of that in mind, that's the context that you need to know. Super quick summary. Here's a little taste of what Israel's genocidal war criminal had to say.
We're on the verge of the president's going to Turkey. Look, Turkey is a great country, but it's governed by a man who calls openly for the annihilation of Israel. He occupies half of Cyprus, a NATO country. He's threatening Greece, another NATO country. And he talks openly about conquering Jerusalem. His foreign minister Is number two, said that the Jewish state hasn't a place among humanity. Basically, it has to be wiped out. His interior minister, said he looks forward to be the governor of Jerusalem. Well, for a regime infected by the Muslim Brotherhood, an extreme movement that hates America and chants death to America from that side of the spectrum, I don't think they should be given F-35s or the engines for their fighter jets, because that'll upset the power balance in the Middle East, which is ultimately guaranteed by Israeli air superiority and also by, I think, by America's posture in the Middle East.
I have failed to find a single report indicating that the Turks are chanting death to America. That was totally made up. Cyprus is not a NATO country. And most of what Netanyahu said was totally made up in order to manufacture consent for us, the United States, entering a war against Turkey. It's not just about the weapons. They see Turkey as a threat to Israel's dominance in that region, much like they did with Iran. So they're already planting the seeds, Cenk, for war against Turkey. It is, of course, unhinged, absolutely unhinged. Go ahead.
Okay, so everything he said was a lie. He said, the minister said that Israel basically has to be wiped out. No, that's not what he said. So the Turks have been saying the Palestinians have a right to exist, which the Israelis then interpret as, well, we get the right to be their dictators, and if you don't agree with our fascist dictator policies in the West Bank and Gaza, then you're saying that we should be wiped out. No, no one said that. No, that's your excuse for being fascist. Oh, they don't like us occupying them and killing them and slaughtering them, so they must want to kill all of us. No, we're not genocidal freaks like you. So nobody said that. Nobody, the Palestinians, the Turks, etc. So now he then says, oh, the Turks are Muslim Brotherhood and they chant death to America. They're not Muslim Brotherhood. They don't chant death to America. But he's basically saying, now remember, hey, schmuck American media propagandists for me. While you're in the middle of gargling, tell them all the Muslims are dirty and evil and terrorists and hate Americans. Well, none of that applies to Turkey. It's the second largest army in NATO. We are a huge ally with them because of their bulwark against Russia and what used to be against Iran. But now Turks and Iranians are beginning to be united over their mutual hatred of the despotic dictators in the Middle East, and that's of course the Israelis. So this lunatic is going to try to get us Americans to attack what has really been our most reliable ally in NATO. We haven't really needed France or Germany that much, but we have needed the Turks. We needed them in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and we've needed them over and over again, and they've been there every time. But they're Muslims, so here comes the racist Israelis to come in and say you should hate all the Muslims, and now you should bomb your own allies because I haven't stolen enough land in the Middle East, okay? So, and what does Brian Kilmeade do? Does he challenge any of those lies? Of course not. Because he literally, his job is to gargle Israel leaders' genitals for a living. That's his job. His job is to say, Israel is great. We should murder everyone Israel wants us to murder, and you should pay for it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
and that's Brian Kilmeade and every anchor on Fox News. Every anchor on Fox News works for the terrorist state of Israel.
That is true. That is absolutely true. Now, even though Netanyahu himself facilitated the funding of Hamas and has admitted as such, or as much, Kilmeade helped him build this narrative of how dangerous Turkey is because of its alleged support of Hamas. Let's take a quick look at that.
They're also financing Hamas, and you guys know that. So they might have helped, but they're financing Hamas, right?
They finance Hamas, they harbor Hamas, they roll out the red carpet for Hamas. They're in fact supporting the bad guys. And they didn't lift a finger to help you in Iran. We did. We're the model ally that fought next to your great soldiers.
Now, of course, as I said earlier, and this is proven, you can look it up for yourselves, Netanyahu, the Israelis, facilitated the funding of Hamas through Qatar. But aside from that, during the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, what did the Israeli government under Netanyahu do? They armed and supported ISIS-linked militias to rain terror on the Palestinian people. In Syria, as we were arming al-Qaeda terrorists at the behest of the Israelis, what did Netanyahu, what did the Israeli government do? They were offering hospital care to ISIS fighters in Syria. There are Israeli reports about that, which you can also look up. So when it comes to supporting terrorists, let's not forget the fact that the Israelis themselves are terrorists. But putting that aside, when it comes to arming, funding, and supporting Muslim terrorism in the region, take a good hard look at what the Israelis have done.
Yeah, look, first of all, ISIS weirdly never attacks Israel. Only attacks Arab nations that Israel's opposed to. That's interesting. It's just a weird strategy. Did we arrest dozens of Israeli spies after 9/11? Yes, we did.
We sure did.
Did we immediately let them go because Israel said you're to return our spies to us? We did, which is incredibly strange.
Some of them were detained for like 70 days.
Yes, no, they were detained for some time until we confirmed they were Israeli spies, and they were. And then Israel said, who do you think you are? Send our spies back, mission accomplished. And we said, yes, sir, of course, sir. And we sent their spies back to them. Of course, their spies in the past have stolen all of our nuclear secrets, our uranium, our nuclear triggers, our top secrets. And every time we go, thank you, sir. May we have another, sir? What a great ally, sir. Why don't you steal more from us, sir? And now they want to turn us against our allies and have us finance a war against the second largest military in our own alliance. It doesn't get any more mental than that. But what does Brian Kilmeade and Fox News do? I mean, they're Hamas, aren't they? Is the check clear, Rupert? Yeah, okay, am I doing a good job? Israeli propaganda, right in the mouth? Yeah, you are, Brian, you're doing a great job, okay? So he's like, oh yeah, they did fund Hamas. No, Israel funded Hamas, Netanyahu himself did, okay? Turkey, what is their only connection to Hamas? That they had peace negotiations where Hamas representatives went to Turkey at our request, at American request.
Just like with Qatar.
Okay, so then they go, oh, you're doing peace? Oh, you must be terrorists. Remember, the Muslims have to be hated and always attacked and murdered. And Brian goes, you are right, sir. They have to attack our allies. We should serve Israel. We love Israel. We bow to Israel, okay?
Am I doing good, Daddy? Am I doing good?
Oh, yeah, of course. So look, you know what my answer is. Let's leave the Middle East. So we're Switzerland, okay? And look, that shouldn't be the case. It should be easy. Turkey's an actual NATO ally. Israel's a pipsqueak the size of Papua New Guinea that's entirely irrelevant to us, other than a bunch of Israelis that are assets inside this country saying, Israel's important, Israel's the most important, you have to serve Israel. A bunch of terrorists inside our country who are constantly advocating for this tiny, tiny, irrelevant country. Let's leave the Middle East, even though we should support Turkey over Israel since they're an actual ally. I'm not even saying that, okay? All I'm saying is, let's get the hell out of there because America has no interest there. And if Israel wants to pick a fight with Iran and Turkey at the same time without using our military and without using our money, well, have at it, Hoss, and see how it turns out for you.
Go nuts.
But you know what they'll do? They'll get all the garglers in American media go, oh, Israel needs our help after starting all the wars. They're doing self-defense. Israelis have been hurt. Remember, they're the most superior and precious people on earth. So even if they start wars against our allies, we have to go murder our own allies on their behalf. These lunatics say this stuff. They use different words and different language, but that is exactly what they're saying. So when Netanyahu comes to town, American media is like, oh yes, our Lord and Savior is here. Who do you want us to murder next, Netanyahu? So go ahead, Brian, go ahead. You're not done yet, get on your knees.
He will. Well, when we come back from the break, I want to get into the second half of this story because there are some reports that Trump's relationship with Netanyahu is strained. I don't know if I buy it, but Netanyahu was asked about it. Let's see how he responded. Come right back.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to our members on TYT.com. Huang Jun says the world has a right to defend itself against Israel. Israel has a right to defend itself in The Hague. That is, of course, 100% true, but our media will say, oh, outrageously The world has to give Israel every war they want, but they don't control us, and you're not allowed to criticize them. Okay, Nerd Ferguson, Trump, when he finally croaks and is in hell, my funeral had more people, 40 million at least. Zelda, referring to the Iranian funeral that we mentioned at the top of the show, Zelda Symphony says if Trump had this many people at his funeral, there'll only be people wanting confirmation of his death. Michael Napier says 12-year member now, 15 years watching. Does anyone know how member numbers work? So Michael, we haven't given out the member numbers in a long time. We're trying to reconstitute it, make sure our system is right and get back to it. I love that you've been with us that long. You guys carry us on your shoulders. Without you guys, we'd fall into the ocean and the Israelis would celebrate. Finally, we got them to shut up, and everyone else now go back to telling everybody how great Israel is and how they owe Israel, right? Anyways, Eclectic writes in, the mainstream press is so much against investigating establishment politicians that Mitch McConnell has disappeared and may be dead for all we know, but the media has barely said a word. Of course, Mitch McConnell has serviced the donor class his entire life. So shush, don't question Mitch McConnell. It's Graham Plattner. Everyone who's an outsider is the devil. They're all Nazis. But Mitch McConnell has been a good boy and served Israel his whole life, so no questions. Art Guy says, wow, it jank ran 30 seconds in, and we might have a new record. It's like a goal with a minute in. All right, anyways, we'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Jen Canano with you guys. Now we want to go to the next story. So am I going to the video first?
No video, just start the lead.
Okay, got you. So there's a report that Trump is having a rift with Netanyahu. Now we've heard about 200 of these, but they seem to be getting a little bit more real, and Netanyahu's reacting to it. So Anna, tell us the facts so we can sort out what's actually happening.
Well, Netanyahu, of course, had his media tour over at Fox News where he was interviewed on a few different shows. And he was asked about his relationship with Donald Trump, whether or not it's actually strained. Let's hear what Netanyahu had to say.
Is the relationship with the president under strain right now? He's been pretty direct in some of his criticism of you and as Israel, some of the aggression against Hezbollah, and your thoughts about that.
Yes. Well, first of all, we see eye to eye on just about everything. And sometimes, as happens among the best of allies, and we are the best of allies, there can be differences of opinion. We usually speak about it in open conversation. You can imagine the president has his way of expressing things, and so do I. But we are, we're allies. We're your model ally. And we respect the United States of America. And if you come to Israel, it is the one nation here in this region that is not only a democracy, but a democracy in which the overwhelming majority of the people unabashedly support the United States of America. So my relationship with the president is fine.
A lot to unpack there with Netanyahu's statements. Number one, Trump did enjoy a lot of support from the Israelis until he decided that he wanted to attempt to work toward a peace deal with Iran and end the war. That was when public opinion polls in Israel indicated that more and more Israelis were not as supportive of Trump as he would like to believe they are. Also, the other thing to note here is, look, the Israelis will be supportive of the president as long as the president serves as their dog. And that goes for Israeli politicians as well. As we know, Donald Trump was lied to by Mossad, by Netanyahu in regard to what would happen with a war against Iran. It would be super quick, it would be so easy, Trump would be such a hero. The people of Iran are just itching to take to the streets and overthrow the regime. But after we bombed an elementary school in the opening salvo of this war, after we killed dozens of Iran's leaders, was there an uprising in Iran?
No, well, actually there was, in a matter of speaking, earlier in the show, we showed you the largest maybe funeral procession in the history of humanity for their slain leader, the Grand Ayatollah Khamenei. So there was an uprising in favor of the government, which by the way, I'm not in favor of the Iranian government. So well played, schmucks. You got us, the Iranian regime, more entrenched than ever, and that maybe you shouldn't listen to the Israelis because they don't know what they're doing. But I know we're forced into following whatever Israel wants. So I'm just gonna break down 2 of his lies real quick. We unabashedly support Americans. No, you unabashedly murder Americans. Israel has killed 10 Americans in the last 3 years and has had 0 arrests, has not put anyone in jail, not brought anyone to justice. Because what they're saying to us is, we control you so thoroughly. We're gonna get the 4 billion every year. We're gonna get 21 and 13 billion extra for more genocides, more wars. We're gonna make you pay over $100 billion for this war, 113 billion and counting last we went. And we're gonna force you into every war. And we're not gonna do anything for you at all. We're gonna steal all your secrets, we're gonna steal your nukes, we're gonna steal everything from you. And that's how we support Americans. And we'll get all of our bought news actors on television to tell you, oh, Israel's your friend. You didn't tell them how we bombed their ship, right? And how we stole their nuclear secret and built a weapon of mass destruction. Hey, servants, news actors, get out there and do Israeli propaganda. And they all do. Last one. Look, at this point with allies like Israel, you don't need enemies because they create nonstop enemies for you. They attack, and they want more and more land and more wars. So now America has enemies we never had before and didn't need. Why do we need to be fighting with the Persians? We're not even in the Middle East. It has nothing to do with us. But Israel demands it. And everyone in our government and everyone in our media, while not working for Israel, demand that we do everything Israel commands us to do.
That's right. Now, on a different Fox show, Netanyahu was asked if he will respect the decisions that Trump makes in regard to the war against Iran. What a great question. That's actually a really good question. So how did he answer it? Take a look.
Last month, the president made clear that you're going to have to accept whatever deal with Iran that the US reaches. He told the Financial Times he won't have any choice, I call the shots. And then he doubled down on this yesterday, telling Axios Netanyahu knows who the boss is. Do you accept that the US would have final say when American and Israeli interests diverge?
I think that the real question is, do we have differing goals when it comes to Iran? And the answer is no. We are set on the same goal. We want to see Iran give up its nuclear weapons program. We want to see the nuclear enriched material removed. We want to see the enrichment sites for nuclear material dismantled. We have other common objectives. And President Trump believes that after the battering that the two of us, Israel and the United States and Israel, gave to Iran, he thinks that he can generate enough leeway, enough pressure through the negotiations to get these goals achieved. And we respect that, and I hope he succeeds. But I can tell you this, deal or no deal, as long as I'm prime minister, Iran will not have nuclear weapons.
Now, of course, Netanyahu has reverted back to pretending like Israel's interests in this war against Iran only have to do with its nuclear program, which was always the cover story. It was never about a nuclear program. It was always about Israel desperately wanting to either topple the regime or turn Iran into a failed state. That has always been Israel's goal. Now, was that the objective of the United States? Well, I don't know. At the beginning of the war, when Trump listed what the US objectives were, he purported to want regime change, but then he realized, oh, wait, this is actually not as easy as Mossad and the Israelis told me it was gonna be, and then he moved off that goal. Now, has Netanyahu moved off that goal? Of course not. So we have diverging objectives here. Iran doesn't have a nuclear program, and in fact, by attacking Iran, what do you think we did? We have encouraged them to race toward nuclear weapons because nuclear armed countries don't get attacked. It serves as a deterrent.
So look, there's a super simple answer. No, Israel doesn't have to do what we want. First of all, we also don't have to do what Israel wants. That's the part of the equation that's never said
right
in American media. Like it's assumed, of course you must serve Israel. If Israel wants something, how dare you even question it? But the media will paint it as, oh, it's also an American interest. And they never explain how. Sometimes they give us technology. Do they? They sell us whatever technology they have, like they would to any other country in the open market. But they give you intelligence, do they? They give us intelligence about who to kill That's their enemies, not our enemies. They create more enemies.
They spy on us.
They spy on us. Oh, you get it. Okay. Yeah. So, but on top of that, here he's saying, oh yeah, we have the same interests, and we want to end every shred of their nuclear program. But wait a minute, that's not what Trump is saying. Trump is saying we want to end any potential nuclear weapons program. We want to take the enrichment out of the country. That part is relatively true. But in terms of ending any nuclear program, no, he added that part. And oftentimes they'll add the parts. So he says, oh, we have many other goals, like regime change. No, that's not a US goal at all. We end all of their proxies. Take over their foreign policy? That's not a US goal, right? These are all Israeli goals, pretending that they're American goals. So, and then in terms of who has to listen to who, well, brother, you don't have to listen to us, and we don't have to give you money, and we don't have to use our military on your behalf. That's how an alliance works. Oh, we're the guys with more money in the military you need, so we're asking you to do certain things. Oh, you don't want to do them? No problem. Withdrawing the military, withdrawing the money. That's how any rational actor would act. But our media says, no, we should be irrational. We should let them boss us around, never listen to anything we say, and then we owe them the money, and you're never to question their funding. And by the way, in all these articles, every reporter in the country pretends to be in the single digits in IQ, like the dumbest people in the whole country going, I don't know how America can find leverage against Israel. I guess we're gonna have to do whatever they say. There's nothing we could do. Like no article ever says, or we could just take their money away, because they think that is unconscionable. It's not even, you can't even consider it. No, you must give Israel your money. Otherwise you're an anti-Semite, hand over your wallet. Okay?
It's insane, absolutely insane.
Absolutely insane, but wait, we're not done yet. Is this a thing that Israel does on a regular basis with other countries? Like even if the public opinion is against Israel, you just work with their leaders to betray their citizens? Well, let's find out from Netanyahu himself.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
What was your reaction when you heard that?
Let me tell you where we have support, because it's fashionable now. And in many countries, because their media and their social media are inundated with anti-Israel, anti-Semitic material, many leaders, call me up and say, hey, look, I've got this problem with public opinion, but I want you to know we respect you. And can we make some deals? And can you teach us some of the things that your military does? And can we have some of your AI and cyber expertise? Israel is the #2 country in cyber in the world, and our technology is absurd. It's so good. So the relations are not quite as they appear, and we have many friends.
That was actually a startling admission. He talks to other world leaders. They say that they have a problem with public opinion, meaning their voters, their citizens, hate Israel, not because they're anti-Semites, but because Israel committed a genocide right in front of our own eyes, and Israel keeps attacking all of its neighbors. So whether they're Irish or Lebanese or Spanish, it doesn't really matter, or South Korean, they all see the same videos, they all see the same facts. They see Israel constantly invading, attacking. But Netanyahu says, yeah, but I talk to their leaders who are bought bitches.
Totally.
And they say, hey, let's make a deal and betray our own citizens. Thank you for the confession.
He just did that with Joseph Aoun in Lebanon.
Yeah. Oh, hey, and they do the same thing that Pablo Escobar does, right? Silver or lead. So either we're going to give you a lot of money and you're going to be a good boy, and we're going to make deals. We're going to make deals with you, okay? Israel is, or you're going to get lead. We're going to call you a terrorist and murder you and your entire family, like we did with the leaders of Iran, the leaders in Gaza, the leaders everywhere. If we don't like a leader, we just call them a terrorist and murder them. And then American media comes in and pretends that we're fighting terrorists. Well, we are the terrorists, right? Yep. So that's Israel 101. But every once in a while, Netanyahu slips up and just says it on TV. He's like, yeah, they have problems with public opinion, but it's okay because we've got their leaders locked up with sweet deals. Okay, now, by the way, you think that doesn't apply to us?
Of course.
The Israeli lobby funds 94% of Congress. and they're the #1 lifetime donor to almost every president in our lifetimes. But did American media ever tell you that? No, they assiduously hid that fact from you. Isn't that amazing? Imagine if China had contributed to 94% of Congress and was the top lifetime donor for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I mean, geez, forget China. Imagine if France was. It'd be so weird. We'd be like, why are the French investing so much money into lobbying America and purchasing all of our politicians? That would be incredibly strange. Imagine if Nicaragua did it, right? It would be so strange. But when Israel does it, all of American media says, that's normal, that's normal. It's great.
What about Qatar? What about Qatar?
And remember, we don't care about your public opinion. We've made deals with Israel. But once you quote Netanyahu back to them, what they'll tell you is anti-Semite.
Yeah, it's a great argument to refute facts.
Yeah, they'll say,
call people anti-Semites.
Oh, no, you're saying that they control the government and the media, and we invented a thing called tropes to trick you and to pretend that very legitimate criticism that we ourselves, our own prime minister, admits on your television sets, right? But if you say what he said, then we'll use this trope to call you an anti-Semite and try to make sure that you never speak out against Israel. That way, no one will be around to object when Israel asks for the next war and the next $100 billion and then 100 billion after that and another trillion for another war. And so, yes, Netanyahu is coming to America. He's gonna pass out more bribes. He's gonna manipulate and control more American politicians and media. And they're gonna try to drive you again into more wars, even though they know you don't want it. But you're an inconvenience to them. That's why they purchased your leadership. And that's why they don't care about American public opinion anymore. 60% against Israel, racing towards 80% against Israel. It doesn't matter. We already bought all of your politicians and all of your media to cover it up.
All right, let's move on to something, I guess, lighter. It is lighter because it has to do with games and sports. And I'm gonna embarrass myself, so I just want to preface this by saying, take it easy on me. This is not my wheelhouse. Let's get into it.
Okay.
The US has a huge World Cup showdown, of course, tonight with Belgium. And now one of their stars will be on the pitch after FIFA on Sunday shocked the tournament by sidelining the suspension of US soccer star Folarin Balogun, who was supposed to sit out due to that red card in the previous game.
I understand sports really well. And that wasn't a foul. That wasn't even an infraction. That was two guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other.
All right, that's Donald Trump bragging about how he intervened to get the red card revoked so that Balogun, our star player, could play in the World Cup. We have several stars, but he's certainly among them. I have a bit of a controversial take on it that I think probably both sides will hate, so you can enjoy that in a minute. But first, Anna's gonna give us more of the facts of the case.
Okay, as the company's sports expert, I'm very excited to explain to you and summarize what's going on here, so bear with me. So Balogun was hit with a red card during last Wednesday's game between the US and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So apparently, since these are two little countries, smaller countries, I should say, you have the US team battling it out between these two smaller countries. Okay, now according to The Athletic, as the ball was played up the left sideline, which I totally understand what that means, from Anthony Robinson in the 61st minute, with the US leading 1-0, Balogun reached out and tried to get his body in position. As he did so, he landed on the back of the leg of the opposing team's player, raking down the calf and landing on the defender's ankle. It did not look like an intentional foul, but rather the forward landing awkwardly. On the slow motion replay, however, it looked like a strong tackle, and there was no doubt that Balogun made rough contact on the defender. Now, Yahoo Sports stated that the foul was initially not deemed card-worthy by the referee. The referee's name is Rafael Klaus, who apparently has a little bit of a shady history. It was only after he was sent to re-watch the play that that, at that point he realized, the official Juan Soto realized that, this should be deemed a red card. So long story short, the American player gets the red card. Here's a photo of that moment if you didn't see it for yourselves. Now, as a result, Balogun had to sit out the rest of the match and was given a 1-match suspension if the US team advanced to the next round. Well, the US team advanced to the next round. So this has been seen as an extremely harsh punishment for the American player, with many people saying that it was accidental contact, it wasn't intentional. Now, the appeals for the reversal of the red card is where things get super spicy. So early reporting indicated that the US could not appeal Balogun's suspension. According to FIFA's rulebook, if a player or team official is sent off as a result of a direct or indirect red card for a second yellow card, they will automatically be suspended from their team's subsequent match. Rule 10.5 also specifies that further penalties can be added. Nothing in the section about yellow and red cards says anything about the 1-match ban being subject to an appeal. And that fact was confirmed to The Athletic by FIFA sources late Wednesday night. If Balogun had been sent off for a red card for violent conduct, then the appeals process could have been brought into play. However, last night, FIFA announced that Balogun could play, and it was after the Trump administration got involved. I'm not gonna get into every minor detail of this, okay?
Yeah,
so
go
ahead.
Yeah, so guys, there's two different issues here, right? One, should he have gotten a red card? And that's controversial enough as it is, but it's also related to the second and bigger issue, which is should Trump have intervened in this case, and should FIFA have listened to Trump intervening? Who's wrong, who's right? Should Balogun play? So first, we're asking you guys in a poll on tyt.com. Do you think Trump advocating for Team USA in the World Cup was appropriate? A, yes, our president should fight for us with everything he's got. B, no, political leaders should stay out of referee decisions.
What do you mean fight for us? Fight for us?
Yeah, no, I'm standing by that. So this is part of what's making people angry, okay? So look, our politicians never do anything for us, okay? So my position, not necessarily winning, but my position is complicated and more nuanced than that. So, and so to have an American president actually care about Team USA and try to do something to correct what some view as an injustice, I don't know, that's like the first time an American president has done anything for us in so long. So there was some part of it that I definitely liked. I mean, so would the leaders of other countries try to intervene in a situation like this? I don't know, like would the Belgians, if they were in a similar situation, say, no, our leaders, please don't fight for us. Don't fight for us, don't talk to FIFA. No, have our star be totally eliminated on a totally unfair call, but we don't want your help. I don't think so, I think they're full of it. I think that every country is biased, and if you had your leaders fight for you, you would like it, okay? And I always think shoe on the other foot. If Obama had done it, would I be in favor of an American president trying to get us some sort of justice? If you think it's justice, yes. Now, guys, that doesn't mean that I think, unreservedly it was great, the whole thing was terrific, and FIFA should have reversed it, okay? What I think is, I'm happy about that part, and that's plenty controversial in and of itself. But in terms of like, I get the concern about politicians interfering with sports. I obviously get it. And so the guilty party here is, if one exists, and one likely does exist, it's FIFA, right? So brother, if you've got rules on red card appeals, you've got to follow your rules on red card appeals, okay? So, and it's like when we get mad at Israel on a totally different issues in our domestic politics. Yeah, we get mad at Israel, but mainly we get mad at our own politicians and our own media because our politicians are supposed to represent us. FIFA is supposed to represent worldwide soccer, and they're supposed to be unbiased. So the French president, the American president, anybody else could try to pressure them, but FIFA is supposed to resist that pressure. And so I get why everybody else is angry at us, and what I can't stand is it's now going to taint America's results here.
Of course it is.
Of course, it's going to be a giant asterisk.
This is a bad move by the Trump administration. He should not have done this. And the reason why I say that, Jake, I get the urge to because we're so starved for political leadership that actually looks out for us. I get the urge to want to defend what the Trump administration did. I'm not going to defend it specifically because this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to have your daddy come in and wag his finger at FIFA and be like, you better revoke that, red card.
No.
It's so embarrassing.
So now, look, I want to go back and argue about the red card in a second, but I don't want people mistaking what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, when you consider the red card, was it fair or unfair? Should Trump have intervened or not? The bottom line is, was there an injustice here? If they didn't follow the regulations on red card appeals, yes, there was an injustice. And then that taints the whole World Cup. And now you look at it in the context of FIFA overall. They gave Trump that nonsense peace prize.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to bring that up.
Right.
Yes.
So obviously FIFA is bending to the will of Trump.
Yes.
And that's what taints the sport.
Yes.
And that's what I'm bothered by. So, and the other issue here is the context of us being so powerful in the world. If Uruguay had their leader had petitioned FIFA and FIFA thought, well, he's making a good point, and they overturned their decision, that would be less outrageous because nobody thinks Uruguay is going to bully FIFA, right? But could America bully FIFA? Well, apparently they made up a peace prize to give to Trump. So there's something weird going on with FIFA and Trump.
Yeah, and
so that's why I get why people are mad. Now on the red card, I gotta say something because every soccer fan, football fan is like, no, red card malice doesn't matter. And that picture is terribly misleading. So what actually happened in the game is Balogun went in for a tackle and he hit the ball first, and then his cleats did hit the guy, and that's what you're seeing, right? And you can call a foul on that. In fact, that is a foul, no question about it, okay? Even if you had no bad intent, and even if you hit the ball first, if you go cleats up and hit the guy's shin, it's a foul. But is it a red card? Everybody goes, oh, of course it is. No, it's not true. Let me read to you guys. This is under the category of serious foul play for a red card. There are other categories for red cards, but this is the one that applies in this case. So using excessive force or brutality in a tackle that endangers the safety of an opponent. So whether the person was using excessive force or brutality is relevant to whether they get a red card or a yellow card or a normal foul. Giving a red card there is super extreme for a guy who hit the ball first and did not show excessive force or brutality and didn't even seem to mean to hit the guy. Yes, it's still a foul, but no, it is not a guaranteed red card. That is just not true. So I think what happened in the first place was terribly unjust to America. But now nobody's gonna know or care about that. All they're gonna care about is the injustice back. And I'll give one last thing as an asterisk to the Belgians, okay? The rest of the world caring about what's fair and not fair in the World Cup makes sense. The rest of the world caring about American or Trump interference in FIFA and a questionable decision to revoke the red card makes sense, right? The Belgians demanding to play with one of our best players out, to me, that's just crying over, oh, why do we have to play the whole American team? We wanted to play a weakened American team without one of your top stars, and boo-hoo, now we have to play your whole team. And we're so weak that we're gonna cry about it all week long, okay? So no, if I'm a Steelers fan, which I am, and the league disqualifies Mahomes from a playoff game, maybe I'm happy for a minute because I want the Steelers to advance, right? But I don't brag about it like, oh, we demand to have Mahomes not play. We want to play them when they don't have their best players, so we could brag later about beating a team without their best players. Well, okay, whatever. I guess you're proud of that. So no, yeah, if you're sensing a little bit of pride in me and sticking up for my country, you sense the goddamn right, okay? So look, I love a lot of the other teams in the World Cup, but you come and cry about, oh no, I demand that you not have your best players, and then like somehow that you think that makes you a hero? No, Belgium, it doesn't make you a hero. I hope America wins 6-0. Anyway.
So I might agree with you based on the way it's been reported. I might agree with you on the red card being unfair, okay? But putting that aside, I just think it's not a good look to have our government intervene. And just to give you more details on how our government intervened, it wasn't just Trump, it was also Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
What is he doing?
And also Andrew Giuliani, the executive director of the White House Task Force on the World Cup. They spring into action. You wanna know what they did? They got lawyers involved, okay? They engaged lawyers to help the US Soccer Federation try to appeal despite FIFA's rules against such appeals, according to two people familiar with the call. Now, Scott Goodwin, a hedge fund manager and major donor to US Soccer, brought to the attention of Trump officials public accusations that Rafael Klaus, the referee, was involved in match fixing in Brazil by giving out irregular red cards. But hold on, pause for a second. In the end, he wasn't the one who made the decision on the red card.
No, he was. So yeah, they VAR'd it and they talked to people in the studio as well. But no, look, guys, I'm so torn on it because I don't want politicians interfering,
no, it's terrible.
And I don't want rich people coming in and hiring lawyers and going after the ref, etc. On the other hand, the calls that ref made were outrageous in my opinion. I know I'm biased, but it was like 5, 6 giant calls against America to the point where I turned around to my wife who doesn't care and was like, is this ref even honest? What's going on here? Like, because it's not like it hasn't happened before, and it's not like it hasn't happened with this ref before. So like, I didn't know any of that history, and watching the game, I thought this is really bizarre before the red card, okay?
And by the way, just to do my due diligence here for the audience, because I don't want to misinform you, let's go to graphic 10 here. Brazilian authorities and FIFA have found no evidence of wrongdoing by Klaus, but Trump brought up those allegations in his call with FIFA president Gianni Infantino, the people familiar with the call said. So I just, look, it would be far more impressive if the US team was able to beat Belgium without the star player. I think they have the capacity to do it. Now, I do think all of the shenanigans that have transpired will take away from the US win. If the US does win, I would have preferred to not politicize the World Cup, but Trump and his cronies decided to do that. I don't think it's a good look, so I do disagree with you. But you shouldn't take it too personally because I know nothing about sports or soccer. So
okay, all right. I can't help but say the last two things.
Okay.
So look, earlier in the show, we talked and was enraged about the story about 10 Americans being killed by Israelis in the last 3 years, and our government didn't barely even ask for the murderers to get arrested, and none of them have been arrested.
Exactly.
So like, if you're not an American, I'm trying to explain to you the context of you don't get it because we made bribery legal in America. So our politicians are the most disgustingly corrupt people in the whole country, and they never serve us. Even if you kill American citizens, they don't care. Instead they serve the other country, right? So in that context, we're so starved for an American leader to do anything for Americans that's why there's a little bit of reflexively like, wow, I can't believe they bothered to actually fight for America on anything. And Belgians, try to run out the clock. That's a great strategy. Please do that, okay?
Is that what they do?
Yeah, in my opinion, and then people will say, oh no, you don't understand the nuance and blah, blah, blah.
Is that illegal?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a super dumb strategy where some teams, usually European teams, try to run out the clock forever and ever and ever, and think, oh great, we'll score 1 goal and run out the clock, and then they get, I think it's a terrible strategy. It allows the other team to shoot over and over and over again. So please, Belgium, do the normal dumb strategy you do, okay?
Okay, we're gonna do one more story.
Okay.
You're so fired up today. All right, we're gonna talk about flock cameras. Okay, let's get into it. Do you want to do the lead?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm so mad about so many things. And so, all right. Most Americans are totally unaware that there are 100,000 surveillance cameras operating across the United States watching you at all times. Actually, it's more than 100,000. They're called flock cameras, and there's almost no oversight over how police use them. Great, so Big Brother is totally official. He's watching every single thing you do, and we're supposed to not care. Well, we care, so we're going to give you the facts of the case.
Yeah, and not only is this enhanced surveillance problematic because of how unregulated it is, the bigger problem here is the fact that it requires AI technology to operate, and oftentimes people get falsely accused of crimes they didn't commit through the use of these flock cameras. So let's get into the details, and we'll start with the wrongful allegations. So one specific example that I want to kind of focus on to give you guys a sense of how problematic these flock cameras really are. This took place in Denver, where Denver police wrongfully accused a woman of theft, which she actually didn't commit. So last year in Denver, Colorado, Columbine Valley Police Sergeant Jamie Milliman showed up to a woman's house. Her name is Chrisanna Elser, and issued a summons for her to appear in court. Now, he very confidently had accused her of stealing a package off a porch in a town, just one town over. The officer told her that he had tracked her car, and by the way, there's video of this, which we can't use for copyright reasons, but basically he told her like that they had been tracking her vehicle in the area using these flock cameras. According to reporting by CBS 42, Chrisanna Elser was able to get in touch with Columbine Valley Police Chief Brett Cottrell, who reviewed her evidence and voided the summons. In an email to Elser, Cottrell wrote, "After reviewing the evidence you have provided, nicely done by the way, we have voided the summons that was issued." Now again, these flock cameras rely on, they first of all keep track of license plates, and they do rely on AI technology in order to kind of operate, to function, and also to gather data on everyone indiscriminately as you're out in public driving around. Now, the woman had to provide her own evidence to clear her name, which included, by the way, submitting her own camera footage and ring footage from the house where she was actually at during the time that the package was stolen. Now, what are flock cameras and why are they so controversial? Well, they're not the same as regular traffic cameras, which don't rely on AI, which actually are more regulated. These cameras rely on AI to record and catalog cars into a nationwide database. They collect data on the model of your vehicle, the color of your vehicle, license plate number, bumper stickers, even scratches and dents on vehicles. If police agencies have a contract with Flock, they can search Flock's database. And according to GovTech, which reported on this story, Flock's total funding stands at $1.2 billion, according to Crunchbase, including a recent $275 million investment round. That round valued Flock at $7.5 billion, up from $4.8 billion the previous year. Few GovTech companies can claim such a high profile. But despite how much it's worth and despite how many clients Flock already has, Congress hasn't regulated it at all. The company says it has more than 12,000 clients across the US, which includes more than 5,000 law enforcement agencies, 1,000 businesses, and numerous HOAs. And there has been some abuse. So the Denver situation is not the first time this has happened, where someone was falsely accused of committing a crime that they did not commit through the use of these Flock cameras and its database. The ACLU has brought forth a case against Flock and surfaced multiple issues with the technology. Per the ACLU, Flock tends to also lie to the public about what their technology is capable of doing and what type of government agencies are using their database. For instance, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Flock had told a city council that they do not create trafficking maps of cars, which was a lie. The city canceled their Flock contract after their lie was discovered. Flock also told Colorado police that the feds do not have access to their database. No feds. That was a lie. Flock has contracts with Homeland Security. Flock straight up lied to a city council in Illinois about their work alongside the ACLU, claiming that they were actually working with the ACLU on their technology. ACLU has never worked with Flock. In fact, they are challenging the company as we speak. There's more. Flock was used by Texas police to track a woman who crossed state lines after after having abortion pill complications. So if you happen to live in a state that has effectively banned abortion and you've traveled outside the state in order to obtain the abortion pill, well, they're keeping track of you through Flock's technology.
So the $7.5 billion valuation means that it is going to be everywhere. That is what the market expects. So it'll surround you. So sometimes it'll accuse you wrongly, but even if it didn't do that, I don't want Big Brother watching at all times. I mean, we're supposed to be against that. And yet it's happening right now, and like almost no one is even noting it. Like everybody's treating it like it's super normal. That every moment of your life should be recorded, and the authorities should be able to see it. Anna, you know what it reminded me of? The Larry Ellison clip, where he said we're going to have all of the citizens under surveillance.
So you'll be on your best behavior.
Yeah. So now, what does your best behavior mean? It might mean, hey, you don't break any laws, and sometimes it will mean that, of course. And sometimes it means that you're not bothering the authorities and the powerful. And if you do, they'll put Flock Camera's database to make sure that they track everything you do. Now, on the other hand, if you're a good boy or girl and you help the wealthy and the powerful, no one will bother to look at the Flock cameras. No one will bother to track the database to see if you've ever done anything wrong in your life.
Yeah, it has a chilling effect on Americans who might want to engage in protest, for instance, a rightful, lawful protest against government overreach. But if you know you're being watched at all times and that the feds have access to this database, it's going to have a chilling effect for some people.
And did it stop the shooting of Charlie Kirk or the assassination attempt of Trump at Butler, Pennsylvania? You never really hear about these Big Brother ever stopping anything, right? And if they did, there would be massive marketing about it, right? But you never hear that. But you do hear when they do false allegations, you do hear, now you're hearing that they're going to be everywhere. So I've never seen the authorities use this kind of technology right. I've only seen them use it to abuse their own citizens. So good luck to us. All right, guys, Revolution and Operation Joy, all of that will continue in the rest of the week. But right now, we're all gonna do our patriotic duty and watch America versus Belgium in the World Cup. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.